Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Sylvester the Cat here, and I'm back for some more of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland of course, for the Game Boy Advance. So, last time we actually did tackle through both World 3, which is the forms of Butter Building, in addition to World 4, Grape Garden. And today for this episode is the fact that we're going to be jumping to World 5, and that's the forms of Yogurt Yard. So, after this particular world where we're about to be jumping into World 6, that we're able to actually get ourselves plethora of secret switches, but even then, let's get started by the forms of level 1 right here, in the forms of Yogurt Yard, and it seems more accurately, we're actually onto the halfway point of the forms of the entirety of the main adventure itself, so even then though, that we've only got about, 4 more worlds left until we're able to actually finish the entirety of the main game itself. Now, first of all, we just need to be able to actually get to there, because I can definitely see this little mini door over there. In addition to that, though, we got ourselves another extra one up, so that way we got ourselves 27 as far as the extra lives count goes. And even especially noticeable by the forms of 28 currently, because, 0 makes it more accurately, you still got 1 chance left, so... secret switch in this level right there is the fact that you need to be able to get into this specific room right here, and that way we should be able to actually get ourselves a secret switch that way. So, there you go then. Self-explanatory right there, everything else is just as well as it used to be, and that was absolutely very, very close though. Especially noticeable, I've almost died, but in forms of the actual, get temporarily froze, but in forms of the actual, chilly enemy right there, so... just want to clear things out for this point, so... yeah, as you expected, that the color star rush we're going to be able to actually obtain for is definitely yellow, because you can definitely tell that Yogurt Yard, based off from the actual first letter of this particular sequence is, but in forms of Y. So, you get the idea. So let's go ahead and try this bomb relay, again real quickly. So hopefully I can get myself my better attempt on that one. So, let's see how this goes. Okay, so far so good. There we go. Now we can able to proceed on the forms of the third portion. So yes, oh yeah, I talk about failing for those kinds of stuff. Okay, this what happens if you manage to able to actually knock out one of those different colored Kirbys out in the forms of the actual bomb relay. Basically what happens is though, is the fact that this particular ball type enemy did appear, and then he could be acted out as like a computer point, and it does that automatically if you're able to actually toss the bomb strictly towards someone else. So even though there's one pointing out right away. So I don't think level 2 in this level though won't able to contain a secret switch until let's just say level 4 right there, and yeah, this is the enemy I was talking about right there. And by the way, here we have ourselves the ball right there, which is once again kind of useless though. However though, I will admit though right away though, is that it does a little bit more something different for a table, I'm presuming so. Because I'm assuming that it might actually contains a, just one attack will do, which even then, I think that'll do the job done, which even then, that might actually sounds a little bit more of an improvement over the likes of the NES version though. But I rarely used it though still, because of how the fact that, well honestly I prefer like Spark or Fireball, or in this case Burning, copy ability as what it says, over the likes of any other copy abilities as far as I'm aware, well, usually for the bolt's sake, so... anyways, we got ourselves bonkers again, so in fact we're actually going pretty terrible at this rate, because the way how he moves, especially noticeable he's in a gigantic size instead of just small, and it's pretty easy to overrun him, which even though that's the only too much potentials right there. So anyways, we've got a hammer right there, and it seems more accurately, oh you gotta be kidding me, I've got 1 bit of health left. Let's just hope enough I don't die right there, especially towards the very end. And in fact, we got ourselves a couple of these Waddle Dees there, which is kind of cool, but I somehow accidentally run into them, so that's kind of redundancy if I might as well consider this. On the other hand, there's actually an extra life down there, so let's go ahead and nab that back until we're able to actually get ourselves, just only 28 extra 1-ups in addition to... please... ah, damn it. I haven't got one, well, at least last time we've got one, when it comes to the goal minigame itself, it was definitely since the very end of World 4, in the forms of Grape Garden, so So need to double check what's in here. I'm also able to obtain stone for this, because even then, until we actually unlock ourselves level 6, we do need to get ourselves a hammer copy ability, because I say hammer copy ability as far as I'm aware, because we do need to get ourselves the secret switch on that specific level coming up, coming up afterwards. So, anyways though, so yeah, today was actually forms of the 26th of May, 2018, so we've only got ourselves 6 more days until we're able to actually get into June at this rate. So even then, we've only expected, we've actually got ourselves about, I would say about, roughly about, oh jeez, how many days we've got left? I might as well get confused about this. I'm assuming that we've actually got ourselves about, like, I know I'm really do apologize about the fact that I'm missing track of what the forms of some of these how much days we've got left when it comes to countdown lists. But apart from that though, we're actually on Saturday at this point. So even though I could assuming so, we've actually only got ourselves about just roughly about 16, or in this case 17 days left. I'm assuming 17 days because, well, as far as you already were. So, anyways though, now we can able to actually get into here so easily now, thanks to how the fact that I highly suggest you don't use the wheel on that specific area right there, because if you actually use the wheel ability, if you manage to run into those blocks, then you might easily fall off there. So, thankfully, since we got ourselves a sword, although right now we've got ourselves a stone again, let's go ahead and use our power cell very quickly to guide so slowly. I have to admit though right away though, is that the momentum on the power cell, especially in this version of the game, did get a little bit more weirder at times, especially noticeable with this little wider momentum going. Especially noticeable, I was really used to what the NES version of Kirby's Adventure as far as I'm aware for that, so... Anyways though, so let's move on to level 4 right here. And I'm assuming this level will actually contains a secret switch, which that will be definitely is one of them, so... It's a shame, I could potentially try to get ourselves the fire burning ability right there, which I might as well obtain that now. And, yeah, we could able to actually just do... Oh, Christ. I don't know, expected to be able to actually recover that in time, but... I guess I'll have to do it without it though, so... Yeah, let's just get the invincibility frames right there, and yeah, it doesn't matter if I get hit, because again, invincibility frames I might as well take. But I really gonna hope if I don't die on this particular section right there, because if I do, then, you know, we might as well get kicked out of this particular room and able to actually refight those guys again, so... Let's see how this goes though, hey? Alright, so... Okay, there's not much else to really say about this for the most part though, because we've already... And he struck me from the back, so I probably shouldn't pay attention to that, so... Yeah, because of that though, since you've lost this particular sequence right there, you get kicked out of the room and you have to re-enter in again, so even though that's the only... nitpicky about this part, especially noticeable, it's, I think it actually contains the exact same thing as how it does in the forms of the NES version of the forms of Kirby's Adventure as well. But, from my knowledge, as to how the fact that it gets pretty, stingy, especially with these enemies like this, even then. Well, I wasn't really particularly, oh, forget it. So anyways, though, now, originally I was gonna try to say to you something for you guys, is that originally I was trying to do something completely different with this particular Let's Play, as far as the actual, proceedings of this Let's Play goes. That, originally I was gonna be able to actually go ahead and deal with 2 playthroughs of this game. Well, normally by the forms of, normally, you start off with normal mode, just like how it does in the original Kirby's Adventure for the NES, and then after when you beat the game, you have to beat it like 100% completion, by the way, that, in the forms of the Kirby's Adventure, for example, for the NES, if you manage to be able to 100% everything in the forms of the normal game, you actually unlock yourselves extra game. This game may actually contains the extra game as well, but similar to the ones in the forms of Kirby's Adventure Let's Play that Mickey Mouse did already tackle through, that he most likely concentrate on the actual full main game rather than just the actual 2 playthroughs of the game. I might as well do the exact same thing for this particular remake this time around though, because extra game is plays exactly like how it does in the forms of normal game, except, you know, you get yourselves 3 segments of your health, which even then I might as well discuss on that until we get to the extra video of this game. So, even though there's not much anything else videos wise with this particular Let's Play goes, especially noticeable how the fact that since we've almost nearly at the halfway portion of the forms of 2018 at this rate, well, until as expecting but in forms of, still continuing on with the forms of the Kirby series of Let's Plays, and even especially noticeable by the forms of the upcoming giant marathon we're going to be doing, thanks to the forms of the upcoming releases of Mega Man 11, for the forms of, Xbox One and PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, and PC versions. So, speaking of such though, it's the fact that 4 days ago, in during the likes of the rest of the world actually, is the fact that Mega Man Legacy Collection, both 1 and 2, have now finally been released on the forms of Nintendo Switch versions. Well, at least in the physical version only came out in the forms of North America, like Legacy Collection 1 retains, the game cartridge, or in this case the game card, and then the sequel, Legacy Collection 2, retains the download code. See if Fernando's one pointing out right away. Somewhat similar how it does in the forms of Bayonetta 1 and 2, but both on the Nintendo Switch, obviously, so... Secret switch right there is the fact that you have to use a combination of both. Well, you start off with fire first of all, because you have to lit up the rope until you're able to actually activate the cannon, and also by the forms of the high jump ability to be able to actually get to the actual cannon in time. So, if that's the case, then you can probably definitely see how the fact that this method will actually work out to be, so... Yeah, because of that though, unfortunately though, I'm probably going to be cancelled out 2 playthroughs of this game. I'm just mainly trying to able to concentrate on just one playthrough of this game, because even I know that the extra mode plays exactly like how it does in the forms of the normal game, except, well, you do have 3 units of health instead of the usual 6. And plus, I really do think that the enemy patterns, as far as I'm aware from that, retains the exact same patterns, unlike the ones in the forms of the extra game in the forms of Kirby's Dreamland 1 for the Game Boy, that normally it just gets like a pretty much a different enemy pattern, or even especially noticeable by the forms of the different boss patterns. So I kinda wish that there's a the Kirby's Dreamland 1 remake, although it technically does that in the forms of Kirby Superstar, but I was really hoping they're trying to be able to actually do a remake of the forms of Kirby's Dreamland 2 or Kirby's Dreamland 3, which it might not usually happen though, so even then I'm just making things up. So anyways, let's go ahead and enter this particular arena over there, because I need to obtain the hammer for this particular upcoming level, especially noticeable in the forms of level 6, because we do need to use hammer for this next secret switch. So even then that we can able to actually accept the fact, and let's go ahead and restore our health, and we can able to actually get into level 6 naturally. So let's get to it. Now, obviously, we do need to be very careful of this, because this particular sequence right here is filled with wheelie enemies. So I suggest you're able to actually get rid of them before you're able to actually protect your hammer copy ability, and be sure to actually do not lose it entirely though. Also, because if you accidentally lose it, then you have to complete the level first before you're able to actually access to the point where you have an option to able to actually, after when you complete the level, and you can able to actually pause the game and then able to actually select exit the level entirely though. So even then I just want to point things out for this point. So anyways though, so let's go ahead and just activate the bomb block until we're able to actually let those stone-based enemies just fall off to the bottomless pit below. Well, some of them, mind you. And, seems more accurately, this level's gone really short and quite fast. As far as I've already mentioned about this before, ever since during the likes of the Butter Building, in the forms of World 3, because of, we don't have ourselves a 3D dynamic view for this particular Butter Building segments like that, so I think that's the reason why, how the fact that this particular game goes by really quickly compared to how it does in the forms of the original Kirby's Adventure, mind you, because normally we actually come across into some of these segments like that, so... And yes, this is why, rather, we do need to get ourselves a hammer to do this, because obviously with the forms of these, these store blocks, they usually just manage to block out some progressions right there. It does only requires hammer to do this, but unlike in any other copy abilities, it will not work like that. It will not work like that, sorry. So anyways though, let's get ourselves, still got 2. I really wish I need to get a 1 though, to able to get my extra 1-ups back. Fine, whatever. Anyways, let's get into this next boss. But in forms of that, though, we're actually gonna come... Oh, yeah, let's go ahead and just deal with this next boss, though, anyway. Here we have ourselves the Heavy Maul. And he's a lot more bigger than the likes of how it does in the original version, I think. And it makes it way too easy compared to how it does in the forms of the original counterparts, because, well, obviously, he's in gargantuan size. And plus, in addition to that, though, I don't really think you don't have to worry about the forms of the levels constantly scrolling, although you still have to worry about this system. But apart from that, though, as long as you get yourselves the copy ability with you, you don't have many issues with that this time around, though. So there you go then, we've actually obtained the yellow star rod, and we've managed to accomplish World 5. And now we move on to World 6, Orange Ocean. In this case, we're gonna have to find every single switches in all of the main levels in Orange Ocean. So, starting with level 1 real quickly. In this particular main secret switch we need to obtain, though, is to able to acquire hammer. Because of that, though, since unfortunately we did accidentally lost our hammer ability, even though I could potentially try to keep it in the forms of the actual Heavy Maul boss fight, but unfortunately that's not the case, though, unfortunately. So, unless if you've been following through our Let's Play of Kirby's Adventure before, there's actually a little bit of a trick that you can able to perform in, but in forms of trying to able to swallow those two enemies at the same time, like this part for instance, and wait for a few seconds until you're able to actually get yourselves a hammer, and there you go, that's how you're supposed to get it. So, and yeah, we still have ourselves a steel block to able to actually demolish with, even especially noticeable that, you know, hammer is still a thing to able to actually just use this. And we can actually come across into the first secret switch in Orange Ocean. In this case, the next secret switch that we actually come across into. And that's all we got. See, even though, let's go ahead and just finish the main level as ever will be. But it wasn't until the couple of levels later, in the forms of this particular world itself, in the forms of Orange Ocean. The second level we do need to acquire is the forms of the stone copy ability, or the hammer if I like to pronounce it for this kind of stuff. Although, it doesn't matter though anyway, because we've already lost our hammer ability already, so who cares. But anyways though, although I still kind of wish I just want to keep it forever, but sometimes enemies doesn't like me that much when it comes to keeping those copy abilities with me, so at least it doesn't last very long though, so there we go then. Still 5,000 points, which doesn't mean anything that much in terms of the actual rewards you can get with the forms of score based. So anyways though, let's move on to level 2, and as I mentioned this before, yeah, you know, we do need to require to able to get ourselves the rock copy ability on this particular level right there, especially in the secret switch wise. So if you go here, then luckily for you, you get yourselves a stone ability. Kind of think about it, I need to actually call this a stone ability instead of rock. So maybe I keep on thinking about the forms of, you know, Kirby 64 the crystal shards for some reason, but even then that may seem the case, so... Now, this particular secret switch, in my opinion, though, is one of the more difficult secret switches to obtain, though, because in order to actually just to get to it, though, is that you have to make it all the way to this specific sequence right there until you're able to actually come across into this, you know, that particular door over there, when, you know, you can see this little sparkling stars all the way, all surrounding by the entirety of the door. And by the way, if you manage to come across into that, then it's your chance to able to actually just use a stone to able to actually stomp on the actual stump. Now we can, you know, activate the secret switch for that part, and we can now able to actually just finish the level as ever will be. But then again, this is by far the more difficult secret switches to obtain, in my opinion, just because of how the fact that, you know, these little, you know, these dynamite bomb-looking enemies that always trying to catch me off guard, even for about a split second or something like that, that it always about to guess it was... Oh, you gotta be kidding me. How did that tornado just get completely invulnerable to my spark? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Jeez. And I just realized about something right from the start, though, is that most of these enemies do have their recolor variations this time around, though, which is kind of like how it doesn't even when, well, usually this is before when, Kingdom Hearts Final Mix, especially noticeable in Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, usually exist, and especially noticeable by the forms of Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep Final Mix version as well, that are mostly heartless, and even, except nobodies though, because I'm presuming nobodies are still perfectly intact when it comes to color schemes or what have you, but heartless, and especially noticeable by the forms of unversed enemies, during the likes of both Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 and, birth by sleep, they usually have themselves a different color. So that was when before when this game was at, or this case, that's when after when this game is released. Well, usually for the actual, circumstances though anyway. So, here we are on to level 3 right there, and this is where we need to get ourselves the next, secret switch that we can able to encounter for. And basically, we do need to get ourselves both hammer to start off with, because we need to be able to actually take down bonkers in the forms of the red color variation this time around though, which is kind of cool though if you ask me. So let's go ahead and obtain the actual hammer. Sorry for the lack of dialogue for this point, folks, because even though it's kind of hard to talk with the forms of how some of these dialogue I was supposed to be saying for this much, but even then though, yeah. So yeah, let's go ahead and actually access to this particular alcove right there, and, just drop out the sword, or no, the hammer ability, I should say, and just get onto this right door, and, oh, you gotta be kidding me, he got away so easily, though. It's incredibly impossible to be able to do this for the first try, but even then, though, as long as the second tries usually comes in, I always get very lucky with the forms of second tries to be like this. But even then, though, that's just the only, curriculum timing skills or what have you, so yeah. And this is the reason why we do need the laser to begin with, because you know how the fact that, if you go to this left door right there, we actually come across into this cannon right there. Now, normally you can able to do this with fire, but obviously fire extinguishes itself already, thanks to the actual enemy itself already got into the water right there. And just like by the forms of level 5 in the forms of Yogurt Yard, as soon as that little rope lit, we need to actually make our way fast until we're able to actually get there just in time. Although, current thing about it though, you still have multitude of tries if you're able to mess everything up. So even though that's the only good thing about this. So yeah, I think that's all that's really going for in the forms of this particular level itself. I really do like this little sprite work they actually did done with the forms of these little sailboats this time around though, because they make it a little bit more rendering instead of like the actual stomach sprite. Well, usually by the static image, or in this case the actual sprite rather, so yeah, it's a very impressive looking detailed game as far as I'm aware for this, because it's a Game Boy Advance title, as you expected for many other remakes or ports out there, including the likes of, The Legend of Zelda A Link to the Past, and the classic 2D Mario action in the forms of Super Mario Bros. 2, Super Mario World, Super Mario Bros. 3, and the forms of Yoshi's Island, so even though that makes it pretty obvious. I've definitely noticed there's also a remake, or in this case the actual, I would say a remake or port to the Game Boy Advance games, what I was kind of familiar with, and that's the forms of, I would say the Magical Quest starring Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse, which even then, that could be only happened in the forms of the Game Boy Advance version, which is usually be a Game Boy Advance port to the Super Nintendo title, which is basically the exact same thing, except you have two different playable characters, if I'm assuming this much. I'm assuming that if I remember this correctly, that in the third entry usually retains Donald Duck in the forms of the actual playable characters department, which even then though, I might be very curious to try those out, among with the forms of the Crash Bandicoot games on the Game Boy Advance, because I haven't really got those in during time, because even then though that I probably should be able to get back into Crash Bandicoot these days, especially noticeable that on its way, until when it gets to like the 29th of June 2018, that the forms of the actual changing release dates of the forms of the multi-platform of the forms of, or multitude of versions of the forms of Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, which you know what I mean, of the forms of Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC versions, that you're expecting that this might actually happening by the forms of the 29th of June. The reason why they do this is because, well, there's almost nearly towards the, a day before marks a year old of the forms of the PlayStation 4 version. I'm presuming you can now able to get the PlayStation 4 version of Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy now for quite cheap now. Well, usually it only costs about like £20 now, so it's a pretty good deal. But this is way better than the likes of the physical versions of the forms of trying to able to buy physical versions of Crash Bandicoot Trilogy on the PlayStation, because they're really pricey though, I have to admit the right away. Even excluding the likes of other titles like Mario Sports, oh no, not Mario Sports, Mario Superstar Baseball for the Nintendo GameCube, and even especially noticeable by the forms of the Kirby of all things, that Kirby Air Ride is definitely one of the more rarer games in the forms of the actual GameCube's lifespan. I don't know why they make Kirby Air Ride so expensive in our country when it comes to the actual pricing on that game. Might be very curious to try that out, but unfortunately I could not able to actually get this at this point because it's way too freaking expensive, if you ask me. But still, I might be very curious to try that out though. Before you're able to get into this next level, by the forms of level 5, let's go ahead and deal with the Kirby's Air Grind again. But now this time around though, let's go ahead and compete against with these multicolored Kirbys in the forms of level 2, so... Now, I really don't know if how the fact that these computer opponents do changed up, or in this case gets a bit stronger when it comes to level 2. I think the only changes between level 1 and level 2, and especially level 3, is how these little black rails managed able to actually spawn in multitude of places this time around though, assuming that I might more make the cells correctly though. So, there we go, I still pretty much dominated for this one particular race in general, but even though I'm pretty much roll. How about that then, huh? Okay then, so we've got ourselves 42 extra lives, almost there to the 50 lives count, which is quite surprising because even then though, you can get so many extra lives in this version of the game, unlike the ones in, well, you still got plenty of lives to able to actually grind for when it comes to the original Kirby's Adventure in general, but you don't get that much in terms of extra 1-ups and stuff, because you normally get yourselves... Well, you can still able to actually get yourselves 4 extra 1-ups in the forms of the crane game, but most of these minigames can get pretty tough in some of these scenarios, mainly due to the forms of the egg catching game because of how the fact that all the timing aspects you have to deal with. And even especially noticeable by the forms of the quick draw minigame that is really hard to beat King Dedede because he was actually going really strong and perfect and what have you, which even then... That making seems the case by the forms of how the fact that I can get myself a little bit trolled right there when it comes to King Dedede himself, so that makes it pretty obvious with this solution there. Alright, so in this level right there is the fact that we have to once again get ourselves a, the secret switch that we need to obtain for, and basically we need to go down here and just light up the actual rope. Before I do that actually, let's go ahead and get our 1-up right there. And deal with that Waddle Doo before you do anything, and just fly all the way up. Just make sure I don't get hit by too many enemies, mainly these Waddle Dees and stuff like that, and I was too late. Oh, that's a bit terrific, especially noticeable how the fact that, well, I just cannot believe how the fact that I just always mess things up, and especially noticeable how timing it needs to be super accurate with these particular modes and stuff like that, so... Yeah, that's what I can usually cover for this part. Oh, that was not fair. I mean, I hate when things like that happen. That's like almost like a, it's nothing like a rubber banding or anything like that. It's just how the fact that when the enemies might actually seem to think they're using their attacks on their specific direction, but they're always trying it about against me, which even now, that's the only, nitpicking about this point with that being said, and the end of the level is just right there, but I'm not going to do that just yet though, because I need to desperately trying to get ourselves a secret switch from, and plus, both the Waddle Doo and the Waddle Dees are also about to get me as well, because they move way too fast, even they're going up to the slanted hill as possible, and even especially noticeable how the fact that they always about to be how the fact that they've always about to chase against with me, which even then that's the only cryptic thing about it. So anyways, let's finish this main level right there. There we go. Now I've got my extra 1-up back after the deserted death of the forms of, certain enemy contacts here and there. So now let's move on to level 6. And that level also holds up the secret switch on that specific level as well. So, what is this? Like 6 secret switches we're about to be able to find through in this particular world. So that's a little bit more exploration, especially with the exploration type heavy. So obviously we do need to able to actually use the UFO for this, because obviously if you manage to hold down the beam button right there, you can able to actually do a charge shot, and then once you do that, then boom, there you go, secret switch is being active. So yeah, how about that then, huh? So yeah, until we get to the 7th world, by the forms of Rainbow Resort, we're expecting we might actually come across into the 2 final switches in the entirety of the game. So even then, we're expecting will be a job done and good to go with this part. So everything else will be just as welcoming as it used to be. Wow, these guys are now green? I mean, for a second there, I thought they were blue at first in the forms of the previous levels ago, but they're now green. Gee, I wonder why, how the fact that this looks awfully similar to how it does it, or somewhat similar to the ones in the forms of Kingdom Hearts Final Mix and Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix Plus, and even Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep Final Mix when it comes to different colors of both, you know, heartless and even unversed enemies. So, yeah, that's very interesting, actually. So, speaking of such, we got ourselves these little duos yet again. So, let's go ahead and finish this one off by the forms of Crush, the Screen Nuke. And there we go. We deal with that for now. And yeah. And I was gonna get a invincibility lollipop to basically just ram into everything. So, even though it doesn't usually say Hyper Zone or Hyper Mode this time around though, unlike the ones in the forms of the original Kirby's Adventure, which it makes it a little bit more obvious because even though I'm still pretty much in Crush ability mode. So, anyways, this will be the final time we're gonna be seeing those guys for the last time. But except the fact that we're now going to be doing, ice physics involved. So even though this could be a little bit more of a challenge to it, but I'm sure I pretty much got with this justice from that. So let's go ahead and just keep on swallowing. Oh god, I'm going to almost die again, so I think I might as well count for that. Oh, what? How the hell did that fork just right about to get, just able to get to me, which even then, I wasn't expecting to see that one coming though. Fine, I'll just... Seriously, I'm gonna be dying a lot in this playthrough, especially noticeable how the fact that with the way how the ice physics is almost gonna be screwing me up. That's how it normally happens when it comes to ice levels like that. It's almost gonna screw up my momentum completely, but there we go. I deserve that. Or in this case, you guys deserve it, so... And speaking of deserve it, you guys deserve me for actually give me my extra 1-up back. Jeez, what a busy work going on right there. So, speaking of which, let's go ahead and face off against with the next boss in this game, by the forms of Meta Knight himself. And just like before, we do need to still use the sword ability before you're able to do a sword fight one-on-one between, well, both Kirby and Meta Knight all in one. So, even though he's way more easier, because I assume to realize is that most of these bosses, and even mini-boss fights as a result, they don't have that much defense on it this time around though, unlike the ones in the NES version of the game, or in this case, the original Kirby's Adventure, that's for sure. So now we've actually obtained the orange star rod, and now we move on to World 7, or in this case Level 7 as what it says, Rainbow Resort. Can you expect what color we're going to be able to get with the forms of the star rod's choice? That would be only goes to red, because of the actual bandana, or even especially noticeable with this, box color. So join me next time on Let's Play Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland. Is the fact that we're going to be jump into World 7 Rainbow Resort and save, Dreamland. So see you guys next time. Later, fellas.